Patricia never planned to be wealthy. She never even prayed for it. Her childhood taught her that survival itself was already a blessing. Anything more was simple grace. She grew up counting coins before going to the market, watching her mother negotiate with a mixture of hope and embarrassment, and helping her father pack his tools before sunrise so he could catch his bus on time. Those memories never left her. So, even when life later opened doors she didn't expect, when her business grew, her name became respected, and money stopped being something she chased, Patricia remained grounded in the simplest truth. People matter, kindness matters, and humility is never outdated. It was this mindset that made her stop that day. She had finished a meeting and stepping out to pick a few things at a store. She liked doing things herself. Not everything needed an assistant. She enjoyed the calmness of moving without a crowd around her, blending in, seeing people as they were. But as she walked out of the store with a small bag in her hand, she noticed someone sitting by the side of the building. At first, she thought he was just resting. People sit anywhere these days. But something about his posture pulled her eyes back to him. He wasn't begging. He wasn't even trying to get anyone's attention. He sat with his back against the wall, elbows on his knees, fingers linked tightly, like someone trying to hold himself together. Patricia slowed down. There was a heaviness around him, invisible but real. His clothes looked washed but worn out from too many rewashes. His hair was unbarbed but tidy. He looked exhausted in a way that didn't come from lack of sleep, but from life hitting too many times without mercy. Her driver had already opened the car door for her, but she didn't enter. She turned around and walked back to him. "Excuse me?" she said gently. "Are you all right?" The question startled him. He looked up quickly, eyes wide, the kind of eyes that had seen too much in too little time. "Yes, ma'am," he said immediately. "I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. Patricia could see it in the way he wiped his eyes quickly, pretending it was dust, and the way his shoulders sagged even while he tried to sit upright. "What's your name?" she asked. "Nelson." "And why are you sitting here like this?" He hesitated. Patricia could see the embarrassment rise in his eyes. She recognized it. She had lived that life too. She sat down beside him on the low step, ignoring her assistant's shocked expression. "You can talk to me," Patricia said calmly. "I am not in a hurry." Nelson swallowed hard. "I lost my job today," he said quietly. "I didn't even work there for long, and it wasn't my fault. That's the part that is killing me." "What happened?" "My supervisor accused me of stealing." "I didn't steal anything, I swear. But he said since I was the newest staff, it must be me. And before I knew it, they were shouting at me, dragging me outside, telling me to leave." Patricia flinched slightly. "Did anyone stand up for you?" He shook his head. "Nobody wants trouble, and I don't have anyone to call. I've been trying to get something small for a long time. This was the only job that finally accepted me. Now, I am back to this." He gestured around weakly. Patricia didn't say anything yet. She wanted him to finish. "I left the place, but I didn't know where to go," he continued. "So I just sat here. I told myself I wouldn't cry in public. But..." He paused, struggling. "It's been a terrible few years. I have tried to stay strong, but today just broke me a little." Patricia had heard similar stories before, but something about Nelson's voice, about the way he carefully explained himself without anger or entitlement, touched her deeply. "What kind of work do you do?" she asked. "Electrical wiring, repairs, general maintenance work, and I can learn anything," he added quickly. "I'm a hard worker. I don't cause trouble." Patricia thought for a moment. Then she stood up. "Come with me." Nelson blinked, confused. "Ma?" "I said, come with me." He hesitated, not out of distrust, but out of shock. Patricia gave a small reassuring smile, and that was all it took. He got up slowly and followed her to the car. When they sat inside, Patricia turned to face him properly. "I believe in helping people who are willing to work," she said simply. "And I can see you are not lazy. You're just dealing with a difficult phase." Nelson nodded, eyes glassy again. "I run several properties and facilities," she continued. "We always need dedicated hands. If you're serious, truly serious, I can place you under one of my maintenance supervisors. You will earn a decent salary, and if you do well, you will rise." Nelson opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His throat tightened with emotion. "Ma," he finally managed, his voice trembling. "I don't even know what to say." "You don't need to say anything yet. You just need to show up." He covered his face with both hands, leaning forward slightly as his shoulders shook, not loudly. Just a young man quietly breaking open after carrying too much for too long. Patricia rested her palm gently on his shoulder. "It's okay. You fought life alone for a long time. Let someone help you for once." After a few minutes, he nodded slowly and wiped his face. "I won't disappoint you," he said. "I believe that," she replied. She asked the driver to stop by a small restaurant. Nelson tried to refuse, but she insisted. He ate quickly, carefully, as though he didn't want to look greedy. Patricia pretended not to notice, giving him dignity. When they arrived at the staff quarters, she turned to him again. "Go in, rest. Tomorrow morning, someone will come and show you where to report." Nelson held the car door for a moment, overwhelmed. "Thank you, Ma," he whispered. "I mean it from my heart. Thank you so much." Patricia simply nodded. "Take care of yourself, Nelson." He stepped out, still shocked, still unsure if he was dreaming, and watched the car drive away. That evening, Patricia reached home, tired but peaceful. Her son, Joel, rushed towards her with the easy joy only children carry. "Mom, you're back," he said, hugging her waist tightly. She smiled and rubbed his head. "Good," he said, then peered up at her face. "She looked like you helped someone again." Patricia laughed. "And what makes you think that?" "You always have this soft look," he shrugged, "like your heart is full." She kissed his forehead. "Maybe you're right." Nelson hardly slept that night. He lay on the small bed in the staff quarters, staring at the ceiling. Not because the bed was uncomfortable. It was far better than what he'd been used to. But because his mind refused to settle. Everything felt unreal. Just hours earlier, he had been humiliated, thrown out like trash, stripped of dignity. And now, this? A steady job, a place to lay his head, a chance. He turned over on his side and exhaled shakily, the weight of the past few years pressing against his chest. He had been stretched thin by life, pulled in 1,000 directions by problems with no mercy. Nights where he slept hungry, days where he worked for hours, hoping something, anything, would turn in his favor. Moments he questioned if hard work even mattered anymore. And then today, this stranger, this woman who owed him nothing, looked at him and saw a human being. He covered his face for a moment, letting the emotions wash over him again, then finally drifted into the first peaceful sleep he had experienced in a long while. Morning came with a soft knock at his door. Nelson jolted awake, sat up too fast, then rubbed his eyes. "Come in," he said. A middle-aged man stepped in, tall, with a calm, observant face. He introduced himself as Mr. Collins, one of Patricia's facility supervisors. "You're Nelson?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "Good. Madam told me about you. You will shadow me for the next few weeks. After that, we will know where you fit best." Nelson's chest tightened with gratitude again. "Yes, sir, I'm ready." Mr. Collins studied him for a second, then nodded approvingly. "Let's go." The first week was tough, not because the work was too much, but because Nelson was determined to prove himself. He arrived before everyone else, studied instructions twice, asked questions without pride, and worked with a focus that surprised even Mr. Collins. What impressed people most wasn't his skill, though he was good. It was the way he carried himself. He was polite, respectful, humble. He didn't gossip. He didn't complain. He didn't act like anything was below him. And somehow, even when he was tired, he still found small ways to help others. Every evening when he returned to his room, he was exhausted but fulfilled. For the first time in years, he was moving forward. But completely unknown to him, every step of growth he experienced had a quiet witness. One afternoon, Patricia decided to walk through one of her property sites unannounced, a normal practice for her. She believed surprise visits revealed the real state of things. Her staff were used to her doing it when she felt like checking in. She had barely gotten halfway across the courtyard when she saw Nelson. He was standing on a small ladder, checking faulty wiring along the corridor. His shirt was damp with effort, a toolbox open beside him, sleeves rolled up. But it wasn't the work that caught her attention. It was the expression on his face, calm, focused, grateful. He wasn't doing the job of someone trying to impress her. He wasn't aware she was even there. He worked with the sincerity of someone who understood what a second chance meant. Patricia watched quietly for a moment. She had helped many people in her lifetime. Some had disappointed her. Some had taken advantage of her generosity. Some had even felt entitled. But Nelson, he was different. There was something steady about him, something honest. When he finally climbed down the ladder, turning to pick another tool, he froze when his eyes met hers. "Good afternoon, ma," he said quickly, straightening himself. "Good afternoon, Nelson. How are you finding things?" "It's been good, ma. I'm learning a lot." "I can see that," she said. A small smile tugged at her lips. "I'll leave you to your work," Patricia said gently. "Yes, ma'am." As she walked away, Nelson watched her for a second. It still shocked him how an act so simple, just stopping to listen, had changed his life's direction. He returned to his ladder with a quiet determination. "She helped me. I won't waste it." Meanwhile, Patricia's home had its own rhythm. Her son, Joel, was the kind of child who could brighten a room just by entering it. He had his mother's warmth, her curiosity, her ability to observe quietly before speaking. Joel never missed anything. If a worker seemed sad, he noticed. If his mother stayed up late worrying about something, he sensed it. If she came home looking peaceful, he assumed she would help someone that day, and was usually right. So when Patricia returned home earlier that usual one evening, he sprang from the couch. "You look happy," he declared, hands on his hips like an old man analyzing a mystery. Patricia laughed. "Do I?" "Yes. Did something good happen?" "Nothing big. I just saw someone working with so much sincerity, and it made me grateful." "Someone like who?" "A young man I hired recently." Joe nodded sagely, a look that made Patricia chuckle again. "You always say people are important," he said. "Maybe he's one of the important people." Patricia paused. She had never thought of it that way. "Why do you say that?" "Because you stopped for him," Joe said simply. "You don't stop for everybody, even when people beg you to." Patricia stared at him, surprised by how much he understood without trying. Joel continued, "Sometimes, when you stop for someone, it's because your heart knows something your head doesn't know yet." She leaned back slowly, letting his words sink in. Kids say profound things without knowing they are profound. "Maybe you're right," she murmured. Joel grinned. "I am usually right." Patricia pulled him into a hug, her heart swelling. Weeks passed. Nelson became one of the most reliable workers on the team. Mr. Collins praised him often. "This one is different. He works with his heart." And gradually, Nelson's confidence grew too. He smiled more, His shoulders relaxed, his steps were steady, but life wasn't magically perfect. Some nights, Nelson still battled old fears. The fear of failing again, of something going wrong, of life turning as brutally as it had before. Trauma doesn't disappear simply because circumstances improve. But each morning, he pushed through those thoughts, determined not to slip backward. And Patricia noticed. She didn't involve herself too much. She believed in giving people space to rise on their own. But she kept an eye from a distance. She asked discreet questions. She made sure he wasn't being mistreated. She made sure he had what he needed to work. Her kindness wasn't loud, it was steady. One chilly morning, she passed through the site again and saw Nelson kneeling by the generator, fixing something with quiet concentration. Something about the scene moved her, not because of the work itself, but because she remembered the boy who sat outside that building weeks ago, crumbling silently with nowhere to go. This was the same person, but also it wasn't. Kindness, when given at the right time, reshapes people from the inside out. She stepped closer. Nelson. He turned quickly. Ma, good morning. Good morning. She looked settled. He nodded. I'm trying, Ma. You're doing more than trying, she corrected gently. Well done. He looked down, swallowing emotion he didn't want to show. Thank you, Ma. Patricia tilted her head slightly, noticing the honesty in his eyes. If you ever feel overwhelmed or stuck, you can reach out. Not for favor, just for guidance. He blinked. Ma, why are you so kind to me? She smiled softly. Because someone was once kind to me when I didn't deserve it, she said. And because you remind me of how unpredictable life can be. Nelson studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. He understood more than she realized. That night, Nelson lay in bed thinking deeply. He thought about Patricia, her calmness, her generosity, the way she treated everyone with respect regardless of their status. He thought about how his life had changed in such a short time, not because of luck, but because one woman decided to sit beside a stranger instead of walking past. He whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. In another part of the house, Patricia tucked Joel into bed and kissed his forehead. Good night, my love, she said. Joel looked up sleepily. Mom, yes? Do you think that man you helped, do you think he will be okay? Patricia smiled gently. I think he will. Joel nodded, satisfied. Patricia turned off the lights and walked out of the room, not knowing that life, with all its twists and unpredictable turns, would soon test every seed of kindness she had ever planted. For now, the house was peaceful. Her world was stable. Nelson was growing. Joel was happy. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. And life never stays quiet for long. Years passed, and Nelson grew under Patricia's wings like a seed planted in healthy soil. Life slowly stretched his shoulders, strengthened his voice, and sharpened his skills. And Patricia noticed everything. She saw the diligence, the discipline, the hunger to become more. So one afternoon, she called him into her office. You're ready for more responsibility, she said with a calm smile. I've been watching you. Nelson tried to hide his surprise, but it showed anyway. Ma, thank you. You earned it, Patricia replied. And Nelson, don't ever shrink because of where you started. You have a future. Her words didn't just encourage him. They planted something inside him, a quiet fire. He began saving aggressively. Every bonus, every allowance, every gift, he saved it. He wanted something bigger, a dream he barely had the confidence to articulate. And when he finally gathered enough courage to speak, he approached Patricia one morning, nervous but determined. Ma, I want to travel out of the country. I want to try. I want to learn. I want to grow. Patricia didn't frown. She didn't guilt-trip him. She didn't hold on to him tightly like many bosses would. She smiled like a mother watching her child take a brave step. When do you want to leave? she asked gently. Nelson blinked. He hadn't expected it to be that easy. Whenever I'm able to raise the rest of the money, he said. I already saved a lot, but I'm still far from my target. She leaned back and studied him for a long, thoughtful moment. You're brave, Patricia said, and bravery should be supported. She opened her drawer, brought out a check, signed it, and slid it towards him. This should cover the remaining cost, she said quietly. Go, become who you want to be. Nelson stared at the check as tears filled his eyes. Ma, this is too much. I can't. You can, Patricia interrupted softly. And when life blesses you, bless someone else. That's how kindness travels. That was how Nelson left, not as a runaway worker, but as a son whose destiny was sponsored by a woman with a soft heart. Years passed, life moved on, things changed. Nelson worked abroad, took survival jobs at first, lived in small shared spaces, learned new things, picked up certifications, grew, stumbled, rose again, and slowly he built something real, something strong, something he wished Patricia could see, but life didn't wait for him. While Nelson's life grew stronger abroad, Patricia's world slowly began to fall apart. At first, it was a small spark of disaster, a fire accident in her main company facility, one faulty wire, one night of carelessness, one flame that grew faster than anyone could control. She lost everything. Machines burned, documents turned to ashes, investments evaporated in minutes. Insurance refused a claim due to a technicality she didn't fully understand. And just like that, a woman who once ran multiple successful facilities found herself standing in the middle of a quiet, blackened ruin, choking on smoke and a bitter taste of disbelief. But she didn't give up. She gathered every piece of herself and stood up again. She sold her house, she sold her car, she sold every jewelry she owned. She believed she could rebuild from scratch, but luck didn't smile on her this time. Every new business attempt failed. Every investment collapsed. Every plan looked right on paper but wrong in reality. Soon, Patricia found herself renting a small apartment, nothing like the home she once owned. The walls felt too close, too quiet, too unfamiliar. Her health began to slip slowly, first as headaches, then fatigue, then a weakness she couldn't explain. But she hid it. She didn't want Joel to panic. Joel, he was no longer the cheerful boy who guessed his mother's emotions correctly. He was now a university freshman, full of potential, full of dreams, until reality crashed in. Patricia's health worsened, bills mounted. There was no money left. One day, Joe came home and found her on the floor, too weak to stand. That was the day everything changed for him. He dropped out of school without thinking twice. He took whatever work he could find, cleaning jobs, delivery runs, selling water and snacks on the streets, anything that brought a little money. He carried weight far heavier than his age. He watched his mother shrink into pain and exhaustion. He fed her when she couldn't lift her hands. He bathed her, prayed quietly, and cried secretly. And Patricia, watching her son fight alone, felt the deepest heartbreak of her life. Her resilience cracked, voice softened, her body weakened, and her hope dimmed. But she still held Joy's hand every night. I am proud of you, she whispered often. Life will reward your heart. And Joy would smile with tears in his eyes and say, Mom, I'll be fine, just get better. But she wasn't getting better. One evening, she gathered enough strength to sit up, smiled faintly, and held his face gently. You are my best story, she said. Those were her last clear words. That night, her breathing slowed, and before Joel could process the silence, she was gone. Joel buried his mother quietly. No crowds, no tributes, no fancy ceremony. Just a young man and the raw ache of losing the only person who ever loved him loudly. After her burial, life didn't pause for him to heal. He hustled harder, worked odd jobs, slept hungry sometimes, limped through life with a stubborn will to survive. But life didn't smile at him, not yet. He grew thinner, rougher, older than his age. Yet, he kept pushing. Meanwhile, Nelson had made it. He wasn't just comfortable, he was thriving. He ran a successful business abroad and was ready to expand to his home country. He returned to set up a new branch, excited and nostalgic. He walked into the newly rented building that morning with a spring in his step. Hiring had already begun. Hope was in the air. But then, as he stepped into the waiting area, he froze. Sitting in the corner, shoulders slightly hunched, wearing a worn-out shirt that had seen better days, was Joel. Older now, thinner, eyes dimmer, face tired, but unmistakably Joel, Patricia's son. Nelson's heartbeat stumbled. "Joel?" he whispered. Joel looked up slowly, brows furrowed. He didn't recognize him. Sorry, sir. Do I know you?" Nelson walked closer. "It's me, Nelson." Then softer, "Your mother's Nelson." Joel's face changed. His breath caught, memories rushed in. "You," his voice cracked. "You're Nelson?" He nodded. Joel swallowed hard, eyes watering. "Sir, I'm here for the security job." That broke Nelson. It broke something deep in him. "Security job?" he repeated, stunned. "Joel, what happened? Where's your mom?" Joel's lip trembled, his shoulders fell, and with the heaviness of a boy carrying too much pain alone, he whispered, "She's gone." Nelson stepped back like someone punched him. His eyes filled instantly. No, Joel, no." Joel's voice shook. "She tried, sir. She really tried. Everything collapsed. She got sick. I dropped out of school to take care of her. I did everything. But it wasn't enough." By the time he finished, tears were sliding down both their faces. Nelson sat beside him. "Joel, why didn't you call me?" "I didn't know how," Joel whispered. "We lost everything. I didn't know where you were." Nelson closed his eyes painfully. Patricia had lifted him from the dirt, and when she fell, he wasn't there. That truth hurt like a knife, but he wasn't going to feel her twice. "You're not here as a security guard. Not while I am alive. You're coming with me." Joel blinked in confusion. "Sir, I don't understand." Nelson placed a hand on his shoulder. "I owe your mother everything. She sent me to the life I'm living today. She built me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn." Joel stared at him, chest rising in uneven breath. "I'm taking you home," Nelson continued softly. "You will live with me. You will go back to school. You will finish what you started, and I will take care of you the way your mother took care of me." Joel broke. He sobbed into his hands. Nelson pulled him close like a brother. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore. Your mother's kindness didn't die. I'm here. I'm a harvest." And in that moment, everything aligned, just like David and Jonathan, just like Mephibosheth sitting at the king's table. Kindness circled back home. A seed planted years ago, in silence, in sincerity, in love, returned with power. And from that day forward, Joel never struggled alone again. Because kindness always comes back, not always quickly, not always loudly, but always faithfully. Life has a funny way of flipping tables when we least expect it. You can wake up one morning as someone's favorite and sleep the same night at someone they don't even want to remember. Crowns fall, titles fade, health can change. A diagnosis can humble the strongest man. A loss can silence even the loudest woman. Life happens to everybody, and when it does, it's people that will stand for you. But who exactly have you stood for? That's the question this story leaves hanging in the air. Because what Patricia did for Nelson didn't look like much at the time. She didn't rescue a nation. She didn't split the sea. She didn't perform a miracle. She just stopped for someone, listened to someone, lifted someone. And years later, when life turned its back on her and her story ended with more pain than victory, the kindness she planted didn't die with her. It found her son. Just like in the Bible, Jonathan, a prince with everything, stood for David when he had nothing. He defended him. He protected him. He risked his own future for someone who couldn't give him anything in return. Jonathan didn't do it for applause. He didn't do it for reward. He simply chose kindness. His kindness wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't trending. It was private, consistent, and pure. And life, as unpredictable as ever, flipped without warning. Jonathan died on the battlefield. Saul's entire household scattered. A royal family became a forgotten memory in a matter of days. But David, the same David Jonathan once protected, rose to the throne. And one afternoon, he asked a question that changed everything. Is there anyone left from Jonathan's house so I can show him kindness for Jonathan's sake? Kindness has a memory. Even when people forget, kindness doesn't. Even when the giver dies, kindness lives. Even when life buries a story, kindness digs it back out. That was how Mephibosheth, Jonathan's disabled, frightened son, was carried from obscurity straight to the king's table. And that is exactly what happened to Joel, a forgotten boy, broken, hungry, carrying the weight of losing the only person who ever stood for him. But life didn't forget his mother. Kindness didn't forget Patricia. The seed she planted years earlier rose in the form of the same young man she once lifted from a pavement. Nelson didn't help Joel out of pity. He helped him because kindness is a legacy. A legacy doesn't die. So the real question becomes, when life shifts, who will remember you with warmth? Who will speak your name with gratitude? Who will rise for your children because you once rose for them? Who will carry your memory because kindness passed through their life because of you? Life is unpredictable. Positions change, people rise and fall. But kindness outlives seasons. Kindness outlives storms. Kindness outlives even the giver. Be good to people, not because they deserved it, not because it will come back instantly, but because tomorrow is bigger than today. And you never know which seed you plant today will become the harvest your children eat tomorrow. Kindness is insurance. Kindness is inheritance. Kindness is legacy. And in a world this unpredictable, it is the only investment that never dies. I hope you enjoyed the story. Give it a like, share it with friends and with your family. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.